Hey everybody, our next question, real common question, especially for people as they mature in their faith. When we realize that as a disciple of Christ, it's not for me to make a decision, go with it, and then say, Jesus, please bless this, but rather we want to say, Jesus, all things are submitted to you. Remember when we talked about Romans 12:1 back in October, we want to be a living sacrifice out of a heart of gratitude. The question asks, when making big decisions, how do I tell the difference between God's voice and my own? And the reason that I just brought up Romans 12:1 is because what I think to be part of the answer in this one is Romans 12:1 and 12:2. I'm a living sacrifice, which is why I want God's voice to be the voice that I follow. And also, I want you to remember that you are being transformed. 12:2, do not be conformed to this world, but rather be transformed by the renewal of your mind. As you begin to walk closer with Him, you are transformed by the renewal of your mind. So some of your voice is going to be a lot better than it used to be. So I don't want you to think that everything that's your idea is wicked. No, we just want to make sure that we're submitting them. And I also want you to remember that it is by testing, Romans 12:2, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, the good, pleasing, and perfect will of God. Remember, this isn't something that I discover on a map and then I reverse engineer a route back to where I am present day. No, we go test it. You're going to fail sometimes, and God's going to teach you great things in that. You're going to succeed sometimes. You're going to take a route that feels like it's walking in a circle for no apparent reason, and you're going to question why you're doing that. So you can have faith and trust that God is still sovereign. I would encourage you to read Exodus 13 and 14, and we talked about this at the beginning of the month in one of our Zoom devotions. The Israelites are coming up out of Egypt. The 10th plague has happened. The Red Sea has not yet parted. And God just told them, hey, look, I just want you to know a few things real quick, guys. You know where you're going. You're heading to the promised land. You've seen the end of our route. What you've not seen is the route that we're going to take to get there. The most direct route, that's going through Philistia. The Philistines are there. Here's the problem with that, though, guys. I'm not going to lead you through that route. I'm going to take you around it, because were you to travel through that path, were you to take the most direct route between here and the end result, you would actually bail. You would jump ship on the route to getting to the promised land. And while you're thinking, no, I won't because I'm ready to get to the promised land, as God knew that they would. Why? Because they would have to go through battles that they weren't prepared to fight. Sometimes God's going to give you a route. Sometimes God's going to take you on a path that prepares you for the place that He's wanting you to go. Sometimes you've got to hang tight in a spot because God's wanting your character to catch up to your talent. And that's not, I wish I had created that phrase. That's John Strapazon, the guy that's discipled me for a long time. He's told me that over and over again. And if you're not careful, your talent will outpace your character, and there will be penalties for that later on. And usually it means other people around you get hurt. Submit things to God, and even if they don't make sense, keep going forward, okay? And keep in mind, also in Exodus 13, He reminds them, look, I'm going to be with you as a fire by night and a pillar of cloud by day. I'm going to show you every day just what you need to get through that day. Some guiding parameters and principles when it comes to big decisions. Look, I think we've talked about walk with God, right? So walk with God so that you're in tune with His frequency. Test it so that you can discover, or test it so that you can prove and find the will of God. Look, stay in bounds of what you know. There are certain universal out of bounds lines. Don't cross those. There are certain convictions that God has placed on our hearts as individuals. Don't violate those. Okay, so stay in bounds. God's not going to lead you to do something that would violate His laws. You want to get wisdom. I think it is foolish to go ask every person that's in your world what they think. I don't think that's a wise thing. I think we want to have a handful of people in our world that know us well enough and also care enough about us to tell us the truth in love. Okay? If I'm not going to consider your advice, I'm not going to ask it. I'm just going to be honest. But stay in bounds with what you know. Get wisdom. You want to go where you have a peace. Now, sometimes we don't have a peace until after we get there, so this one won't help in those situations. But sometimes at each step in the process, we want to go when we have peace. Look, making a career change after 11 years was a big decision. And I can tell you this, we stayed in bounds with what we knew. I was in a contract, so we knew that I could not accept anything during the school year, and that there would be a point that if I had not been hired, I would not be able to accept anything until the next summer. Okay, so we knew as I was making the career change into working here at Northside, that at some point there was a decision for me to make. And so I didn't want to run out of bounds of that one. We got wisdom. There was a handful of people. I talked to my parents. I have an uncle that I called about this, and there was about 3 other men and families that really are people that know us well and had a lot of wisdom, and we took their advice and we did things with it. And then at each stage in the process, I didn't have peace for the whole haul at the beginning, but I didn't need peace for the whole process at the beginning. I needed peace for step 1. Step 1 was submitting my resume. I needed peace to submit a resume. I didn't need a guarantee of success, but I had peace filling out a resume. I had peace showing up to an interview. I didn't have a guarantee of success. And then whenever there was an offer for a job, we had peace accepting it. You want to go where you have a peace. Now, that all took place at a certain point in the process, and here's the last thing that I would give you in making big decisions is you want to go until you get a no. If you're running after God and if you're passionate about God, Ralph Erwin McManus in his book Chasing Daylight would point to, there is a level of trust that you can place in these things of what God has shaped within your heart and within your life. And one of those is that I can go until I get a no. If I'm walking with God, if I'm testing things out, if I'm staying in bounds and getting wisdom, right? If God says stop, go no further, stop, go no further. But if he doesn't, keep going. And we're going to find out if we got peace at the next phase.